And welcome into Bleav Me, right here on Stadium. That man right there is the legendary handicapper himself, Brandon Lang of BrandonLang.com. I am Cam Rogers. We are here to win you some money. We will see you at the cash counter, courtesy of Brandon Lang. Brandon, what's up, sir?
Well, everybody knows I love college basketball. It's my favorite sport to handicap. I am a basketball junkie. I often tell the story that back in the day, I walked in an all-black gym, and I was the only white guy in the gym, and I asked who's got next, and the first dude said, I'm good. And I said, who's got game after you? And he says, my man down at the end of the bench. I said, you need one? He says, no. And everybody's like, who's this white guy coming in here asking who's got next? I said, who's got it after you? He goes, those two guys down there. So I walked down there, and everybody's watching me, and I said, I said, you got third game back? And dude says, yeah. I said, I run with you? He says, yeah. And his buddy goes, come on, man. We just got set down. You going to pick him up? And he goes, white boy walks into an all-black gym asking who's got next. He can play. So everybody knows I love me some college hoops. So, there's, for me, and we get meat and potatoes, Big 12 best conference. They're beating on each other. I know we got a Big 12 game we're going to kind of go over here. SEC, I think, is your second best conference, top to bottom. ACC down year. Big 10 overhyped. They'll probably get 8 teams in again, and we'll see 7 go out in the first 2 rounds. It seems like that's every year. West Coast, not much going on there other than UCLA, although USC's got some talent, can make a go. Arizona, probably the other team getting a little pressed. But other than that, this is as open an NCAA tournament field as we get it better coming down the wire. I think we're in for a really great NCAA tournament.
Which means plenty of opportunities for value as we go forward here on the show, B. Lang. So excited to break it down with you. Let's go to the NBA first, though. And I want to talk about Kevin Durant, the trade to the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, you get some line movement there with Phoenix in terms of championship odds. In fact, 18-1, Brandon, to plus 450 to win the NBA Finals. When you see that sort of movement, what does it tell you? And is there any value anymore at that number as we stand for Phoenix?
Well, anytime you get a good team at plus value, it's worth taking money on it. You think of Durant, Ayton in the middle, Chris Paul, your point guard, and Devin Booker. You give Durant a couple of shooters. That's something to look at. I think the defensive presence of Mikal Bridges is going to be, it's going to hurt them a little bit. Kevin Durant's not known for his defense. Booker plays little D. Chris Paul's a little older. Ayton in the low post. I listen, Kevin Durant and a point guard and a shooter. Think about the Golden State Warriors. Kevin Durant, a point guard and a shooter. Draymond Green, kind of like Andre Ayton. So you never know. I'm still in shock that the Lakers didn't do everything they could to get Kyrie Irving. Because I really firmly believe had Kyrie Irving gone to the Lakers with Davis and LeBron, they win the NBA championship. And I'm absolutely shocked. Now, some people are saying at the end of the year that Kyrie can sign as a free agent with the Lakers. But I think they dropped the ball based on the fact on how open the West is. And so, you know what? We'll see. I still think personally that the NBA champion comes out of the East. I've said that all year long. With Boston and Milwaukee, and a lot of people are down on Philadelphia, but they're playing well. I still think the NBA champion comes out of the East. I think in the West, Denver and Phoenix. I think it's a two-legged race. I just think Golden State being banged up all year long. I just don't know if they can get it together in time. And I'm not a fan of Memphis. I'm just not. Memphis is exciting and fun to watch. But when you get down to having to play lockdown defense as if your life depends on it, they don't pop off the screen to me. And that's kind of my NBA breakdown.
Boston Celtics, the favorites right now, 3-1 over at BetOnline. You talked about the 76ers, pretty good value. If we're going off of what you said, 14-1 to win the NBA Finals. Let's go into the Lakers and their odds to make the playoffs here. Obviously, they were active during the trade deadline. D'Angelo Russell, Mo Bamba is in town as well. Minus 190. Serious minus money, serious juice to not make the playoffs, Brandon. Plus money, plus 155 to make the playoffs. Of course, they need to get that 10th slot at best for the play-in and what have you. You riding the plus money? What do I do here?
I'm going to. I think it's within reach. As long as Davis stays healthy and LeBron stays healthy, I think it's worth the risk at that plus number 155. I just do. You can't count LeBron out. Last year, Davis got hurt. He had no shot to do it by himself. D'Angelo Russell was there already, left. Now he's back. I don't know how much he brings to the table, but at the end of the day, Davis and LeBron healthy for the rest of the year. If I count on that, for me, it's worth plus 155.
And you got the playoff experience, of course, with LeBron and many others on that team. So we'll see what happens with the Lakers going forward. By the way, the odds for the Clippers in terms of winning the NBA Finals, Brandon, got worse after the acquisition, the signing of Russell Westbrook. So when you see that, Brandon, number one, what sort of shenanigans are going on over in Vegas when the odds get worse when you actually get a decent player or a guy with good pedigree? What do you make of this?
It's pretty obvious Vegas is a doctor and they see a tumor that just arrived on the body of the LA Clippers and they only have so many months to live. That's probably the best way to say it. Vegas is not a fan of Russell Westbrook. And as much as he's bounced around, I personally think it's going to be interesting coming out of the All-Star break to watch Paul George and Kawhi and Russell and see how that it's different. Russell with Davis and having a low post presence and having to dump it in or try to play through Davis with LeBron. I never thought Westbrook was a good fit in LA with LeBron and with Davis. I do think he's a better fit in LA for the Clippers. It's weird. I think he's going to play better with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I think immediately he will have to immediately respect Kawhi, kind of in a different way than he would respect LeBron or Davis. Kawhi commands a certain amount of respect based on who Kawhi is and his work ethic and his no nonsense. Not a fan of the New Balance shoe, but that's a whole different story. It'll be interesting to see how that big three meshes together here out of the break.
A lot happening in Los Angeles. I'm going to ride with you on the plus 155, by the way, for the Lakers to make the playoffs. I like that plus money there. Let's get to some games. All right, let's talk about the Nuggets taking on the Grizzlies, a team that you think in Memphis lacks the defensive prowess, if you will. This one in Memphis on Saturday night. Obviously, a huge tilt here, a potential Western Conference Finals preview, if you will. What do you make of this one, your projected line, and where do I lay the money?
Yeah, I have to believe this is going to be your standard Memphis -3 at home.
Okay.
I can't see Memphis being any more than that, maybe a 2.5 number. Memphis is a different breed of animal at home than they have been on the road this year. I just do. Coming out of the All-Star break is probably the best time for Memphis to get this Denver team than if Denver's on a 6-game road trip. This is the 3rd game on a road trip they're playing. They've adjusted to the East Coast. They're kind of getting their feel. Their legs are back and everything's rolling. Out of the break at Memphis, getting everybody back together, trying to get on the same page. I think the situational play and the low value of the line, I think you have to play Memphis here. If Denver shows up, if they're in mid-season form out of the break, great, you beat me. But in this situation, I call it situational handicapping. In this situation, I think you have to play Memphis -3 or less.
So you're not scared of Jokic, perhaps the best player in the NBA, getting points?
No.
Projected line. Because I'm going to push back a little bit here. I like the plus a little bit.
Sure. Again, expecting guys to come out of the All-Star break and just pick up right where they left off. Do you really think they were getting runs in? Do you really think they were keeping that intensity all week? No, they letting their bodies rest. They're chilling with their boys. Smoke a little chronic, hanging out, not eating right. Now you're getting everybody back together and expect them to go, okay, let's go play some basketball. I think Memphis, on the other hand, is young. They're ready to run. They're ready to go. And with the home court advantage, they're catching Denver in exactly the right spot. I like the fact that you like Denver plus the point here. It's our first disagreement, which I like.
Well, I wanted to throw one in there pretty soon in this show, brother, and I expect a lot more as we go forward here. So I will ride with the Nuggets and fade laying on that one. We'll see what happens on that Saturday night tilt. Let's go to the college basketball hardwood. All right, Brandon, this is our bread and butter. I love college basketball. Things are heating up, obviously, as we get closer to conference championships and the big dance. Let's start with Texas and Baylor in the Big 12. Obviously, perhaps the best conference in college basketball right now. Baylor coming off a loss to K-State. Longhorns beat the Bears back in January. This game in Waco. Projected line for you, and then where are you going here?
Baylor's going to be probably 2.5, 3.
Okay.
Watching the game the other night, I had Kansas State plus 1.5 at home over Baylor. Baylor played a pretty good first half, and then they were coming off the Kansas game on Saturday. Fran Fraschilla even said they look a little tired, look a little lethargic. Very competitive first half. K-State took control with a little 12-2 run in the second half and kind of put Baylor away. Fran Fraschilla noted during that game, he said, you know what? Baylor's one of the worst defensive teams in the Big 12, and they better change that around or they're going nowhere. He noted how tired they looked, how tired their legs were, and he said they have to get it together. And so watching that game, Texas is filthy on the road. A couple Saturdays ago, they went into Kansas State and got the job done. Now, granted, they went into Texas Tech laying 3 the other night, got beat outright, but that's a Texas Tech team that always seems to play Texas really tough. Mm-hmm. So looking at Texas on the road at Baylor, Waco's a tough place to play, but I think from a matchup standpoint, I don't think Baylor matches up well with Texas as they do other teams. And with their lack of defensive efficiency, I'm going to lean toward taking Texas. If I can get anywhere from 2.5 or more, I will take them. If it's a pick 'em 1, I would maybe have to learn. I'm looking for some value with Texas plus 2.5, 3, or anything more than that.
Yeah, I think we can see some line movement in this matchup as we go throughout the weekend here. You're not thinking that this is a good bounce back spot for Baylor off of that Kansas State loss, because that second half was bad. So I'm thinking bounce back opportunity here for the Bears.
I just don't trust them defensively against a team like Texas.
Okay.
One thing that Baylor does not have, Baylor is guard oriented. They don't really have guys in the low post. Texas is big. And when you play a big team, also Texas's guards do defend. So from a matchup standpoint, this is a bad matchup for Baylor. They don't have the bigs that play consistently with their back to the basket. Texas does. So Texas is able to slow the game down. Texas is able to get the pace they want. Texas is able to play inside out. I just don't think it's a favorable matchup for Baylor in this one.
Philosophical question for you, talking about March Madness. Which type of team is better equipped to make a run? Someone like a Baylor or someone like a Texas, physical, long, etc.?
100%. Texas. If you're going to advance in the NCAA tournament, one of the biggest keys is that when you need to stop a run, you need to be able to go to the low post and get you a bucket.
Yep.
To stop a run. Texas has that. Baylor's got guards that can maybe penetrate, get in the lane, and get you a jumper, but they don't really have anybody. Let's just dump it into the low post. Let's space it out, and let's get a good look. They don't have that. Baylor is drive, kick, drive, kick, drive, kick. That's great when you're hitting threes. But if you're not hitting threes, I think Flagler for Baylor was 0 for the first probably 27 minutes of that game. I think it was 0 for 8 from the floor, 0 for 4 from 3. That's your best player. And that's my point. If he's not going off, they're in trouble. And one thing Texas does do, they defend guards very well.
When your margin of error is thin, with the case of Baylor, usually not so good for March Madness. So, I'm with you on Texas. I like that play. I hope it's 4.5. They're getting 4.5, maybe 5. Doubt it, but I hope for some solid points in that matchup. Indiana, Purdue, Trace Jackson Davis, Zach Edey. This is going to be electric, Brandon. Indiana coming off a 15-point loss to Michigan State. Very emotional game out there in East Lansing. We know the situation with that. Purdue just crushed Ohio State in Purdue. What do we do here in this matchup? What are you leaning at?
That was a crazy game. I turned it on, and Indiana looked like they were going to just control this game the whole way. and up 9 early and up at the half. And then to see that kind of flip, to see that kind of from a single digit deficit to winning by double digit, that wave of emotion. And listen, I'm born and raised in Michigan, so I have cousins that went to Michigan State. I get it. I know the cloud that was over that university. Credit to Tom Izzo and his kids for coming up with a victory for that community. In this spot here, I'm just not a believer in this Indiana team. Not saying I'm a believer in Purdue, because Edey's their only double-digit scorer, and then they kind of struggle after that. But he's a big presence. I just don't think Indiana can play well on the road here. Purdue's not that good on the road, and they got some crazy road losses and then a struggle on the road against Nebraska. But at the end of the day, I just think Purdue at home, you can't go against them. If we're laying anything here 6 or less, I love Purdue. And I think you probably may be getting something on the line here of a 5 or 6. And if I can get that, I'll take it. Anything above 7, I might have to lean towards Indiana. But if I can get Purdue 7 or less, I would probably have to lean toward taking the home favorite.
How much in your projections do you rely on a recent performance? Obviously, Indiana looked bad in that second half against Michigan State, losing by 15. And then you're going back on the road, Lafayette, Purdue, one of the top tier teams in college basketball. Do you factor that into your handicapping a lot?
I may factor it into my handicapping. I don't think Vegas factors in the line.
Okay.
I think Vegas, based on how bad a team played the night before, Vegas doesn't take that into account. The number is the number. The number is going to be what it's going to be, barring an injury to a significant player. That number is going to be the projected number, what Vegas feels. They're not going to go, well, Indiana looked really bad against Michigan State. Instead of come with that 8 number, let's come with a 6 number. No. I don't think Vegas takes into account what a team did. That was a tough situation for Indiana with the emotions of Michigan State. But I think this number is going to be what this number is. And from a value standpoint, let's take Purdue 7 or less.
I'm with you. I'm riding that one. I'm going to the cash counter on that one. Purdue, number 5 team in the country, taking on Indiana, number 17. Let's go to the SEC, my man. Arkansas, Alabama. A lot to break down here with the Crimson Tide, considering what is going on off the court. How do you factor that into this game? What do you think about the line range in this one?
Bro, this is your boy. I'm down at the mall. Bring me my gun. All Brandon Miller did was drive down and give him his gun and drive away.
Right.
Didn't hang out, didn't go see what was going on, didn't say, hey, what are you going to do with the gun? He just dropped the gun off and left and went back to the dorm. Thank God he did, because he was cleared of any wrongdoing. He didn't know what he was giving him the gun for. And so he's cleared to play and he's free and clear. Obviously, that affected him on Wednesday night when they went into South Carolina as a 16.5-point road favorite and almost lost the game outright and won by 2. Give South Carolina credit for an incredible performance. But now they're coming, and I think, listen, it was a major distraction for those young kids in that basketball team going on the road. But now they're coming back home against an Arkansas team who they've already beat in Fayetteville. And now they're coming back home to a place where every home game this year in the SEC, they have won by 20 plus, including beating Kentucky by 26, exception of Mississippi State, who's a defensive grinded team who they beat 66-63. They put up over 100 at home against Vandy, put up 97 on Florida. These are absurd numbers. I think they beat somebody else at home 101-44. I'm trying to think who that was. They are ridiculous at home, coming back home with their home crowd, confident against Arkansas, monkey off their back, just the pressure of everything. I think it gets released, and I think they tattoo Arkansas. I'm looking for a number of 7 or less. I would be tempted to lay 8 or less, but at the end of the day, I firmly believe we have got to roll and roll big with Alabama in this one.
All right. I'm not going to the counter on that one because I still think this off-the-court storyline could linger, and more talk and more chatter and the newspapers out there in Tuscaloosa talking about this. The players can't avoid the media and what's going on right now. I think they get sucked in a little bit. Not saying they lose the game, but Arkansas is a team that can score. And if the number is 8.5, give me those points. That's where I'm at. Is it going to be shorter, though?
That. I agree with that. But again, it's a situational play. It's a situational play of looking for this Bama team to come home and absolutely destroy someone and get the distractions off their back. I think we have to roll here. And I do mean roll with Alabama, and Alabama big.
Alabama, Arkansas in college basketball here this weekend. Brandon Lang, it's been a pleasure, my friend, breaking down these games. A lot more content to come going forward, sir.
All right, bud. Have a good week.
Thanks for tuning in to Bleav Me right here on Stadium. We will see you next week.